Do you think you can just walk in here and claim to be some big shot? People like you don't belong in a bank like this. You're wasting everyone's time. Now get out before I call security. Gasps ripple across the lobby. Customers turn their heads. The black man, Marcus Ellison, stands tall and composed, his silence cutting sharper than her words. The tension is unbearable. What you're watching is unbelievable. A successful CEO walks into his own bank and gets treated like this. But what happens next will leave you speechless. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments, from which country are you watching this right now, and what time is it there? I love seeing where our amazing community is tuning in from. And hey, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps us bring you more incredible stories like this one. Marcus Ellison was not just another businessman. He was the founder and CEO of Ellison Global, a rapidly growing investment firm valued in the billions. His journey from a modest neighborhood to running a financial empire was nothing short of extraordinary. On that bright Monday morning, Marcus decided to make a routine stop at the downtown branch of Apex Bank, one of the institutions where he held corporate accounts worth tens of millions. The lobby was polished and elegant. Crystal chandeliers glittered overhead. Sleek counters lined the floor, and the smell of fresh coffee lingered faintly in the air. Marcus, dressed in his signature tailored navy blue suit, walked in with quiet confidence. Despite his wealth and power, he preferred humility and normalcy. To most people, he was just another man at the counter, but Janet Collins didn't see him that way. Behind the counter, she adjusted her blazer and scanned Marcus suspiciously as he approached. "Good morning," Marcus greeted politely. "I'd like to withdraw a large sum and also review some of my corporate accounts." Janet's lips curled into a half-smirk. "Do you even have an account here?" she asked, her tone dripping with disdain. Marcus raised an eyebrow, but kept his composure. "Yes, Marcus Ellison. Ellison Global Holdings. Everything should be under the corporate profile." Instead of checking the system properly, Janet folded her arms. "Sir, we deal with high-value clients here. Unless you can provide immediate proof, I can't waste my time." A murmur passed through the customers waiting nearby. Marcus felt the sting of her tone, but he didn't flinch. He had faced prejudice before, but rarely this openly in a place where he actually held ownership. And this was only the beginning. Marcus calmly handed over his government-issued ID and his sleek black bank card embossed with his name. He placed them gently on the counter, his movements measured and deliberate, hoping professionalism would diffuse the situation. Janet picked them up with 2 fingers as if they were contaminated. She gave them the quickest of glances before shaking her head and sliding them back. "These could be fake," she said sharply, her voice raised just enough for others in the lobby to hear. "You can't just walk in here, say you're some millionaire, and expect us to believe you?" The audacity stunned Marcus. For a moment, he simply stared at her, unable to comprehend the sheer arrogance. Around him, the lobby began to buzz with quiet whispers. Several customers recognized him immediately. His face had graced magazine covers, his interviews broadcast on financial networks, and his name listed among Forbes' top CEOs under 40. But Janet either didn't know or didn't care. She leaned forward across the counter, lowering her voice but sharpening her tone. "Sir, I don't appreciate games. If you continue, I'll have no choice but to call security. So I'm asking you to leave." Marcus exhaled slowly, his jaw tightening. "Are you refusing to serve me?" he asked, his voice steady, though his patience thinned. "Yes," Janet snapped, her eyes narrowing. "Until you provide proof, real proof, that you're actually who you say you are." The tension thickened, pressing down on the entire lobby. A security guard shifted uneasily, taking a cautious step forward, unsure whether to intervene. "Unbelievable," murmured an older man in line. "That's Marcus Ellison. Doesn't she know who he is?" Marcus sighed, suppressing the storm within. He had endured arrogance before, but this was something deeper, blatant disrespect in a place that should have known better. The standoff at the counter grew unbearable. Janet stood firm, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line of disdain. Marcus, calm yet visibly offended, refused to back down. Customers shifted uncomfortably, their murmurs building like a tide of disbelief. and then the heavy glass doors swung open. In walked Richard Hale, the regional director of Apex Bank. His tall frame, polished gray suit, and confident stride commanded instant attention. He had arrived for an unannounced inspection, but instead he stepped straight into the middle of chaos. Richard immediately noticed the silence. The entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. Then his eyes locked on Marcus. Recognition lit up his face, and he strode forward with a broad smile. "Marcus?" Richard's voice boomed across the room. "Marcus Ellison!" "What a surprise to see you here today." The crowd erupted into whispers. Heads turned rapidly between Marcus and Richard. Meanwhile, Janet's face drained of color. She stammered, scrambling to explain. "Mr. Hale, I was just handling this situation. This man claimed—" Richard's tone sliced the air like a blade. "This man is Marcus Ellison, our largest investor. One of the principal stakeholders of Apex Bank." Gasps spread through the room like wildfire. A young couple by the entrance exchanged wide-eyed glances. The older man in line muttered, "I told you. Didn't I say that's who he was?" Janet froze, mouth open, her earlier arrogance dissolving into panic. I didn't realize—" "You didn't realize," Richard snapped. "Your job is to realize. To serve every client with dignity, especially someone like Mr. Ellison. Instead, you've insulted him in front of dozens of witnesses." Marcus folded his arms, silent but firm, letting Richard's words cut deeper than his own ever could. The atmosphere in the lobby was electric, part disbelief, part anticipation. Customers leaned in, whispering to one another, waiting to see what would happen next. Janet stood frozen behind the counter, her confidence shattered, her face pale. Richard turned slowly toward Marcus, his expression softened with respect. "Marcus, I want to personally apologize. What you experienced here is unacceptable, and it does not reflect the values of Apex Bank." Marcus gave a measured nod. "I appreciate that, Richard. But it's troubling to see how easily respect can be denied." Richard's jaw tightened. He spun back toward Janet. His voice, calm but cutting, carried the weight of authority. "Janet Collins, you have embarrassed this institution. You've insulted one of our greatest clients, a man who literally owns part of this bank." Janet's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. "Mr. Hale, please." "I didn't know. You thought wrong," Richard interrupted. "And your assumptions have humiliated this branch in front of every person here. You've left me no choice." A hush fell over the lobby. Even the security guard stood still, waiting. Richard's voice rang out. "You are hereby relieved of your duties. Effective immediately. Collect your belongings and leave the premises." The words hit Janet like a blow. Her composure crumbled, replaced with desperation. "You can't do this to me. I've worked here for 10 years, she cried, her voice cracking. Richard didn't flinch. "And in 10 seconds, you managed to destroy the trust we've built with our clients. Security, please escort Ms. Collins out." 2 guards moved gently but firmly to her side. As she was led past the crowd, some customers shook their heads in disapproval, while others quietly applauded the rare side of accountability delivered on the spot. When the chaos finally subsided, Richard ushered Marcus upstairs into the private executive office. Away from the stares and whispers of the lobby, the 2 men sat across from one another. Richard leaned forward, his tone heavy with sincerity. "Marcus, I can't apologize enough. What you endured today was disgraceful. This institution owes you far more than words." Marcus remained calm, though his eyes carried a quiet fire. "Richard, the accounts, the investments, those matter. But what matters most is respect. Too often men like me are judged before we even speak. Today wasn't about money. It was about dignity." Richard nodded gravely, absorbing every word. "You're right, and I'll make sure this never happens again. Every branch, every manager, they'll undergo new training. Accountability will be non-negotiable." Marcus stood, adjusting his cufflinks, his voice firm but steady. "Good, because a bank isn't just about numbers. It's about trust. If we can't honor that, then all the profits in the world mean nothing." Richard extended his hand. Marcus shook it firmly. The message had been delivered, not with anger, but with authority and grace. As Marcus exited the bank, customers who had witnessed the ordeal looked at him with newfound admiration. To them, he wasn't just a wealthy CEO. He was a man who demanded respect and stood tall against prejudice. The story spread beyond the marble floors of Apex Bank, traveling through conversations, news feeds, and headlines. It wasn't just about one manager's downfall. It was about the reminder that respect is a currency no one can afford to deny. And that's the lesson. Dignity and respect are worth more than any account balance. Tell me in the comments, if you were in Marcus's shoes, how would you have reacted? Don't forget to let us know where you're watching from and the time there. And if you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button.